Apparently, this is Trump's bold new strategy to take on Kamala Harris.
Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say, no, I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
Does Trump really think being racist is a winning campaign strategy? I bet you every time he says something racist, this is what he sees playing out in his head. And don't even get me started on his past.
These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones, you see? That's how far I've come. Would you rather have the black president or the white president who got $1.7 billion off the price? I think they want the white guy right now. Look at my African American over here. Look at him. Are you the greatest? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Look at my African American. There's his African American. This guy. Oh my God. It's not even the beginning. Watch as Rachel Scott decimates him with this question.
You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network.
You don't even say, hello, how are you? This guy's ridiculous. Good for her for confronting him with all the stuff that he said. More reporters need to do this more often. The unfortunate thing is that his own party embraces him for this, and that's why he's allowed to get away with doing all the stuff that Rachel Scott just listed.
And unlike you, Kamala, I know who my roots are. I know where I come from.
Are you suggesting she was a DEI hire?
100%. She was a DEI hire. He said he was going to hire, and she didn't. Her record is abysmal at best.
Donald Trump saying he didn't know that Kamala Harris identified as anything other than Indian until recently. Right behind us here on the video board, we've been seeing a number of headlines, articles showing that Kamala Harris was first sworn in as one of the first Indian American senators, and a number of headlines that speak to her Indian, South Asian history, her heritage background anyway.
So there you have it. They're all attacking her on her background. What's your background? What's your background not? Does this sound familiar? Does this sound like what they were doing with Barack Obama? Is this Birther 2.0? There's even this girl, Laura Loomer, who is a nut job. And she's been bringing out Kamala Harris's birth certificate and posting it and saying she wasn't African American, she's Indian, all this stuff. First of all, doesn't mean, who cares what your background is? You're either someone who's a good leader and is going to be qualified or not. And really, there's just the main rule of, obviously, for being president is you got to be born in America. So born in America, you have to be a certain age. She qualifies under all that stuff. But then these guys are going after DEI, going after, is she qualified? Okay, let's just look at a few things. First of all, she was Attorney General of California. She was a senator. She's been the vice president. So look at her qualifications, and let's look at 2016 when Trump was running and what these same people were saying. They were saying, we don't want someone who's got experience. We want someone who's inexperienced. We want someone from the outside. So the hypocrisy and the gall to come out and say, oh, back then we wanted somebody who was an outsider, and now this person is not qualified enough. I mean, Trump was not qualified enough. Trump had run a bunch of companies into bankruptcy. The only reason Trump was successful was because Mark Burnett saved him and put him on The Apprentice, and his father gave him a ton of money at the beginning. That's the only reason he done anything. And here we have Kamala Harris, highly qualified, and these guys are attacking her on DEI. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that guy we saw, I think it was a congressman that was being interviewed by CNN, who said, oh, she was a DEI hire for the vice presidency. Something to keep in mind, anytime a presidential candidate picks their vice presidential candidate, they try to pick someone that will complement their strengths. So if you have like a northern, somebody who's got the northern states, they might get a vice president from the southern states. They might get somebody who's going to bring something to the ticket. And in Biden's case, of course, in 2020, he was progressive enough to realize that this country was moving towards wanting more female leadership, wanting more diverse leadership, and he found someone who was qualified that then he was able to put on the ticket. He didn't just go down the street and was like, oh, let me just find a black woman, I'm going to throw her in. That's not what happened. She is highly qualified. And if you don't believe me, all you got to do is, after you watch this video, Google her interrogations that she did, or I should say her questionings that she did with Justice Kavanaugh for the Supreme Court. Google just a lot of her work that she did as a senator. You'll see she's sharp, she's smart, she's a prosecutor. And as she says, she's a prosecutor, he's a criminal. So really, she's qualified to prosecute this guy, beat him in the elections, and hopefully next year help this guy go right into jail for all the crimes that he's committed. But really, it's offensive that these people are taking this angle. And it really tells you a lot about the Republican Party, that they don't accept a woman, much less a woman of color, as being qualified. Hillary Clinton, they didn't want to vote for Hillary Clinton because they said, oh, she was, crooked Hillary or whatever they said. But really deep down inside, there's a misogyny that exists in the Republican Party that they can't imagine a woman would have such qualifications, would actually be somebody who's qualified. And again, if you don't believe Hillary Clinton was qualified, there's a great Hulu documentary that you can watch, and it shows you that she was made to lead the country at that point, and unfortunately she lost. But all of this DEI stuff is really offensive for anybody who's got any kind of background. I'm originally from Iran, and my kids are of mixed race. So my kids sometimes will say, I got an Iranian background. Sometimes they'll say I got an Indian background, which is what their mother is. And most importantly, though, they're American. They're born in America. Kamala Harris is American. But these guys are trying to bring this up as if it is some sort of weakness. And all it shows you, the real weakness is within the strategy of the Republican Party. If I'm a supporter of MAGA and a supporter of the Republican Party, I'm scratching my head and going, why are they so unprepared to attack Kamala Harris on her record? Like, they should be going after her on her record, not trying to come up with all of this stuff like you saw Alina Habba going, I know what my background is. Kamala Harris knows what her background is. She went to Howard University. That's a historical black college. She had a black father and an Indian mother. And then, of course, you say that and they go, well, no, he was Jamaican, and so that's not African American. What do these people want? What do they want? I mean, really, I think for them to, because then Trump said in there, he goes, she just, what did he say? She turned into black, or she became black, or something like that. I think the only way that they will consider Kamala Harris as someone who's qualified is if she turns white and turns male. That's the only people that are qualified. Look at JD Vance. You want qualifications? How about lack of qualifications? By the way, when I was talking earlier about how you pick a vice presidential candidate to complement your strengths, JD Vance was a horrible pick because he's basically Donald Trump Jr. in many ways. He just says, and he's even more extreme. He wants to ban abortion federally. He wants to have less rights for women. You saw the famous quote he said that these women that don't have kids, they're not vested in the future of America. So JD Vance was a really bad pick, and he's very unqualified. You want unqualified? He is one heartbeat away from the presidency. So Donald Trump is old. If he were to win and have some health issues and JD Vance had to come in, seriously unqualified. So let's talk about qualifications based on what you've done. He's done nothing. He's never been an executive of a company that, at a leadership position. He's been a senator for a little bit, but he's never been a governor of a state. He hasn't done any of that stuff, and yet he is qualified. By the way, notice that the Democrats aren't going after the Republicans based on their background, their history. Because if we looked at the history, you would see that Donald Trump historically in the past, his father, as well as his grandfather, had been, you'll see that they were sympathetic to some of the far-right German leadership. They also had a lot of racist practices they did during their when they were in housing in New York and in renting practices in New York. A lot of racism there. So anyway, all that to say, old white men and this party on the right just has no other way of going after her. And again, I'm scratching my head. I'm like, weren't you guys prepared for this? What are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? You're going after her for DEI. Well, good luck to you on that as you offend more and more people of color, as you offend more and more women, and hopefully their eyes open up and they see that you really don't care for them. You want to take women's rights away? Look at Project 2025. They want to take away the rights of women. They want to also take away the people of color's ability to vote. Kamala Harris famously says she wants to take the voting rights and actually pass that law, the John Lewis voting rights. So there's a lot of stuff that you will get in terms of democracy. You basically have a pro-democracy Kamala Harris and an anti-democracy Donald Trump. And he famously said just recently, he said, vote for me to these Christians. He said, vote for me, and in 4 years, you'll never have to vote again. So the choice is clear. It's not a DEI thing. She's highly qualified. Hopefully, as people dig in and see what her qualifications are, they'll realize that they're choosing a leader who will actually lead us forward as opposed to leading us backwards. Look into it for yourselves. See what she's done. Don't get sidetracked with all this like, oh, she laughs. Oh my God, God forbid we have a president that laughs. I mean, Donald Trump doesn't want anybody laughing at him. He famously said, I don't like it when people laugh at me. That tells you a lot about this guy's ego. It's very tiny, like many other body parts. I'm comedian Maz Jobrani. I've got a special on YouTube. It's called The Birds and the Bees. Watch it. It's free. If you like it, tell your friends. If you don't like it, keep it to yourselves.